wild, wild times are unfolding in Tuscaloosa because they've got a championship roster down there, except they don't have the slightest clue who their quarterback's going to be. And I mean that. I mean, Nick Saban steps to the podium the other day in a post-practice press conference and says, hey, I've been telling the quarterbacks, force me to play you. He's just begging one of them, please emerge. I have recruited my tail off at every other position, and we thought we had this position sewn up. Think about that, by the way, guys. These were not scrubs. Ty Simpson had offers from coast to coast. Jalen Milroe, ditto. Tyler Buckner as well when he went to Notre Dame. And yet, you want to know what the most frequently texted question to me has been from some people who should know better over the past 72 hours? Josh, is Dylan Lonergan going to end up starting for Alabama? No, he's not. But he's a really good player. And I know some of you saw him in that spring game. And he's, for the record, if you don't know who that is, that's a 4-star true freshman. Probably playing out of his mind right now because there's really not the same pressure on him that there is on those other guys. And I think folks who got access to that scrimmage and folks who have seen the spring game and folks who understand the mechanics of quarterback have looked at him and said, well, if everyone else is a question mark, what about this dude? Hey, if we're going to bite the bullet anyway, why don't we do it with a true freshman? Well, I'll tell you why. Because true freshmen make catastrophic decisions. And on a team that's going to probably be a pretty low margin for error outfit this year, they can't afford that. So in a world, here's what I'm trying to tell you. In a world where the head coach there once upon a time wouldn't even start Tua Tagovailoa over Jalen Hurts, I highly doubt that Nick Saban's all of a sudden rolling the dice on Dylan Lonergan. In time, that guy could be a star. I just don't think it's week 1 against Middle Tennessee State. So I want to move past that, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Because I'm not saying he hasn't shined. In fact, quite the opposite. I think he's opened a lot of eyes in fall camp. There's a big difference in opening eyes in the first scrimmage or the spring game and Nick Saban saying, you're my guy. That I don't think's happening there. But they do have a really key scrimmage coming up Saturday. When's the last time you saw Alabama not be a quarterback-centric team? Because they were with Bryce. They really were with Mac Jones. They certainly were with Tua. They were with Jalen Hurts, especially in the latter portion, although I would argue that was a little bit different dynamic on that team. But I'm talking about like Jake Coker, circa Alabama. And before you scoff at that 2015 team won a national championship. And so I'm thinking to myself, since spring, I've thought to myself, might they have the kind of team that can win regardless of who starts? And if it's really that close, or the competition down there is really that close, I'm thinking to myself, well, who would I go with? And you know, famously, I've changed my mind on this a million times. Now, I'm not on the Tyler Buckner train. Haven't been since he transferred there. Have never thought he was going to win the job. But Jalen Milroe, Ty Simpson, we're no closer really to an answer than I feel like we have been. I think if they started the season today, I think Milroe would be the starter. Doesn't mean much of anything. I mean, that could change drive to drive this Saturday. But what I will tell you, and I'm going to keep harping on this, is there are a lot of folks out there, and just someone's going to be really right on this and really wrong. There are a lot of folks out there who doubt that this team can be a championship caliber team because they think there's this massive hole at quarterback. I certainly agree with you if you say they don't have a star caliber quarterback. What I am also confident in is I think they got a legit offensive line. And I keep hearing more and more things to make me more and more confident in that. Like Caden Proctor, for example, that left tackle out of Iowa is going to start for them at left tackle and is going to be a stud. Ferguson, I think, at left guard has really come on. I think they go, like Nick Saban said, about 7 or 8 deep with guys they feel they can win with in the SEC, and you have not said that in a long time. I think they've been pounding the ball in practice like they hadn't been able to count on doing in a long time, and I think their defensive backs are playing at the caliber, and really linebackers as well, that they haven't in a long time. There's also this understanding, and frankly, I think this is happening at 2 places. I think it's happening at Bama, and I think it's happening at Ohio State right now, where those teams have known since opening spring camp, we don't have a C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young here. But all of us were former 4 and 5 stars. So the collective makeup in this locker room is good enough to win a title. Like there's JT Tuimoloau over there in Columbus. There's Dallas Turner down here. They got half a dozen former 5 stars just at the edge position at Alabama. Those guys, I think, have been aware since spring if we're going to win a title, it's not going to be a quarterback carrying us this year. You would be amazed at what that awareness does to pull a collective extra gear out of a team. Now, if you have a Bryce Young and he goes down and all of a sudden a deer in the headlights true freshman's in at quarterback and you haven't conditioned your mind all year to be ready for that, that's one thing. That crew there has known since spring we don't really have much of a guy that can carry a team at quarterback. But we got a squad full of guys who can collectively, and it's why I'm so fascinated to watch what Bama looks like. I think they could look ugly in week 1. Like, I think they could look terrible and probably be up on Middle Tennessee State like 16-6 or something like that, and everyone just punts on the season. And I think that they could probably play the most physical game you've seen out of Bama in like a decade against Texas. That goes either way. I think there is the potential for even the most hardcore of Alabama fans to completely give up on this team early in the year, only to see them become the best team in the country. Because I think that eventually the style that they want to play with will take its toll. And I think they've got the depth to play that way. I think they got it at offensive line. I think they got it at running back. And I think whichever quarterback starts for them will round into giving them above average play. And that's about what I'd expect from whoever they start at quarterback. Anything more than that is wonderful. Don't count on it. Count on an assault-style ground game and a quarterback that can play in a complementary fashion to that instead of the other way around. And count on that secondary being as deep and talented as you've had it in a while. If you can get that, you got a shot in every game you play. But it's going to be radically different. And I will ask a question in closing that I asked to start this show. Can you imagine if Alabama would have gotten Devin Leary instead of Kentucky? Wow.